check engine light can be something small at times, like, hey, you know, every time I wake up, I have this knot in my trap. And every time I go to the gym and I work on my presses, I work on it just gets worse, or it alleviates. And then when I get home and I go about my daily routine, it becomes worse and worse and worse. I'm like, that's a small thing, but it can turn into a larger grand scheme of things. Like, it can change the way, you know, the way you move, the way you operate. And then it all is just kind of that spiral effect.
We call them small signals. Like the body starts releasing little cues, like you go to do, say, a bicep curl and the top shoulder, all of a sudden you feel a pinch or a zing because you pinched a nerve. Those are little signs that you probably shouldn't ignore. And I'd probably say that is the lights on your car.
You're listening to My Evolved Life, a podcast that simplifies health and fitness and helps you maximize your life. My name is Vuna Nguyen, and I'm the creator of the Evolution Training System. We're so lucky to be living in the information age, meaning it's easier than ever to access information and find answers to any questions you may have. But isn't it confusing when you read information that's conflicting, or worse yet, just sounds wrong? I'll be sitting down with industry professionals to give you clarity and leave you with tangible actions you can take immediately to improve your physical, mental, and psychological health. Today, I welcome Aaron and Amanda to the show. Super excited to have them. They are our first couple on the show. Aaron is a strength trainer in Calgary. He trained under many different modalities, and he's going to speak about that in a little bit. Amanda is a massage therapist, but most importantly, collectively, they are Optimal Living YYC. So first and foremost, welcome to the show, Aaron and Amanda.
Thank you, Vu. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
So why don't you guys take a quick opportunity here to tell us a little bit about yourselves as individuals, and then why you guys decided to marry your services and create Optimal Living YYC.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, so I have been in practice as a massage therapist for 11 years this month. I was educated and experienced in Ontario. It is a regulated province versus Alberta, which doesn't mean much of a difference, just that the regulations are a little bit more strict. So the education is probably a little bit above what you would find here. And the demand is much higher. So over the years, I have built up my certifications through different avenues through massage therapy. And when Aaron and I decided to make the move out here for a lifestyle change, etc., it was kind of COVID that brought us to this point where we're sitting at today. And it was a lot of stuff that was crumbling around us that made us believe that after passing clients back and forth and recommending our services to each other, why don't we just team up and do it as one? And then Optimal Living YYC was formed.
Aaron, anything to add?
No, similar kind of story to it, nothing to contrast, but yeah, the idea of optimal living was an idea when we first moved out here. We just didn't kind of expect it to unravel so soon. But yes, as she was mentioning, kind of the way everything was working around us, we decided to launch it early. We'd been bouncing clients back and forth for quite some time since we first came out here, and it just seemed to get it all under one head. So it came all to light.
No, I love that. And it sounds like it really was circumstantial in terms of the timing, the conditions, and it was the perfect time for you guys to put your services together. So, of course, in the midst of all of this, in the midst of the pandemic, of course, I'm referring to, there are gems. There is opportunity to do things like this. So good on you guys for that. Now, I wanted you guys collectively to talk about the importance of doing both, of not just training, because I think a lot of us can get very one-track minded. We train. We don't worry too much about the stretching, the mobility, the massage. What is the importance of having that focusing on both sides of the coin, so to speak?
A lot of our clients have made the joke to each other. They say, like, I break them and she fixes them. But like constantly, we're always talking about the importance. Like, obviously, you don't need to be told it all the time. We all are very well aware, but it's difficult to kind of implement it in your lifestyle. And that's what we try to do under one head is, small things, like whether it be, personal training, small group training, personalized programs, nutrition. Obviously, I believe massively in massage therapy myself and recovery aspects. So trying to get people to look at it and make the time, if there's ever been a better time for it, for all these avenues that are more than just fitness.
Absolutely. Well, I'm biased personally, so I think that everybody should have massage and experience the benefits of such. The importance of it, though, I mean, if you are in the fitness industry or the health industry in any sort of mind, everybody knows the importance of recovery. And I just think that massage does so much more than what individuals can do on their own. And I have had the question over the years, you know, where people ask me about this device that's hot and new on Amazon and this one, and whether they should get this for their posture. And the truth is that there's a reason why massage therapy won't ever be replaced by robotics of any kind. And that includes all the little gadgets that people find, because there's something to be said about someone working on another person and being able to manipulate that tissue with the knowledge and skills behind it versus somebody who, you know, looks up a little bit of anatomy pictures and whatnot on the web and applies their hand massager to the knots and whatnot. And stretching, I mean, like, there's lots of diverse articles about static stretching, ballistic stretching, all that kind of stuff. Aaron and I have even had healthy debates about that one. I'm a big believer on static stretching and micro-tearing the muscle, because I understand how the filaments of actual muscle tissue work. So the importance of it all, like, I mean, it just seems to go hand in hand, no pun intended.
No, and that's fantastic. And I'm going to ask you guys a question here, and feel free to get as controversial as you want. One of the big things for me, okay, in the personal training industry is, especially here in Canada, it's not regulated. Meaning that, look, anybody can say that they're a personal trainer, or at the very least, they could take a 2-day certification and all of a sudden they are a personal trainer. Whereas I know that on the massage side, it's highly regulated. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 2,200 hours or something like that you have to put in before you're like registered. Is that correct?
Yes, that's very correct.
So how do you guys feel about that disparity? Like on the one end, you require so much certification, so much hands-on experience, and on the other, it's free for all.
We've talked about this. It can get quite heated. I'm on the side, from a personal trainer with over 10 years of experience, on the side that there should be a higher demand of education, similar to that of a massage therapist. I mean, I know I myself obviously certified, but I know of many other certifications. The truth be told, I'm not trying to knock any certification by any means. It's just, I don't think of them as the end all be all. I truly believe in experience. Do I think that people should have more education? Entirely. I do believe obviously in experience, because there's nothing that can ever be better than that itself, but you kind of can't get the experience without the education. As you're saying, it's kind of unregulated, and the way they're trying to go about it, I think of it's kind of as a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
I think it obviously needs a lot more, and it's dependent upon the modality. If we're talking like, martial arts like boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, there is no school for that. There's absolutely not.
No.
Yeah, that is pure experience.
Yeah.
What you're able to absorb in X amount of years. Whereas, there's a lot of great strength and conditioning certifications that I actually speak very highly of, as opposed to just basic personal trainer certification. So to kind of wrap that up, I believe there should be more education. Saying as nice as I can.
I think that for massage, what we do, like, there's so many types of massage, and I know we'll probably eventually cover all that too, but I mean, I have dealt with some high risk patients. I have people who have just come out of surgery. I've aided in recovery processes. So it's not just athletes that I've treated and whatnot. And I've treated lots of people with different diagnoses and prognosis and stuff. So my knowledge base and my education is really important. I do believe that. And I think that if they wanted to put, I know in BC, I think it's 3,000 hours you need. So even a little bit more stricter process. My education in Ontario was amazing. Like when I got out to the work field after that, I was ready. I felt ready. I was confident. And again, with Aaron, I got to say the experience thing, like, yeah, that is probably one we do not debate on, is experience. Now for personal training though, I do think that there should be a little bit more. That, like, I truly do. I mean, the fact that Aaron is categorized in the same area as somebody who takes like a 2-day course, and then maybe they're fresh out of high school or whatever, not that age matters, but just getting into the fitness industry themselves says a lot about the individual. So he's up in an industry competing against people that, you know, have less than half of what he can offer. So truth speaking, I think that like learning the anatomy and what you're dealing with, like at the end of the day, we're both dealing with the human body.
We are.
We're just dealing with it in different forms, you know? So, I mean, you need to have a great deal of knowledge because you don't know who you're going to be meeting. And to be honest, I have patients that come across my table that don't tell me everything right in the beginning, and it spills out over time. So I'm also taking a risk treating these people not knowing their full health history, where Aaron, he gets a little bit of health history, but I would probably say, what, 90% of your clientele don't divulge everything that's wrong with them, and you're working their body hard.
Absolutely.
So,
you know, the reason I asked that question is, given that you have so many, you, Amanda, have so many hours of hands-on, like, sure, anatomy is great. You need to know anatomy, but a lot of people know anatomy by the textbook, which is great, But
yeah.
as you well know, everybody is very different, right? So
Yes.
on the personal training end as well, yeah, you can definitely train out of the textbook, but every body moves differently. And I think that, Aaron, with your 10 years of experience, you're going to be able to identify movement flaws or what have you, especially when they don't divulge all the injuries, their background, their history, right? So let's talk about that. Your experience specifically, Aaron. As I mentioned in your intro, you have many different modalities of training. Let's talk a little bit about that. What areas of training do you offer to your clients?
Myself personally, I do a little bit of everything, and because I actually have experience, I started in martial arts. I've done martial arts itself in 16 plus years. I competed in like Olympic lifting. Naturally, that kind of put an interest at a very young age into like more of the build muscles, see where you can go. Touched a little bit of base on like powerlifting, but I fell in love with calisthenics, kettlebells, things like this. And the one thing I did realize, that kind of the catch-all among all, is there was always one way to do something, and that never really vibed well with me. Like starting at, for example, boxing at 11, you know, all 5 feet of me was told to like stand tall and jab and jab and jab. And don't get me wrong, jab is a great weapon, but it's circumstantial, right? When you're going against 6'1" people. So that kind of opened up my mind. I remember explaining to Amanda with a bunch of clients around about the whole concept of, you know, a deadlift, and how everyone's always told certain things. Get your hips under. It's not a squat. Like, get your hips up. It's this, it's that. I talked about the anatomy itself, right? For me, I always try to say, like, that's, without being corny about it, this is where the whole concept of optimal living came in, because what is right for one isn't always right for another. There is way more than one way to go with that. Doesn't matter if it's lifting, if it's, you know, nutrition, if it's, you know, your recovery protocols. For me, I was huge on finding what was optimal for your life, you know, and that's kind of where it took us.
Yeah. No, I think it's such a fascinating concept that you guys have put together. I mean, there are certain things. The word optimal nowadays, I find it's a little bit cliche because it's overused and people don't actually know what that means. But it's really, truly, when you understand your clients, you understand, regardless of whether you're doing massage or rehab or physio or training, understanding your clients is the only way you can really optimize, right? But I think that is a quality that is lost on us nowadays, right? Especially, you know, I've witnessed it, you know, in the midst of, especially COVID, where your business is changed fundamentally. A lot of businesses have had to change the way they practice. A lot of businesses are scraping for customers. And a lot of the times they perform services that are outside of their scope, right? Outside of their expertise. So, you know, when you're dealing with the human body and you don't have the expertise, you can injure. It's just fact, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So Amanda, then, let's talk about massage. Personally, I love massage. I know very little about it though. Okay, so I know that there are so many different types of massage. For me, I go in, I'm a sucker that loves punishment, so give me the deep tissue and give me everything that you've got. but that may not be the smartest thing. It's just what I perceive to be effective because I feel it working, right? And I might not walk for a couple days, whatever. Tell me about the different types of massage and how a customer should decide what kind of massage they need.
Well, that's an interesting way of wording that question, Boo. So because often I do have people that come in that ask me, you know, this hurts, but do whatever you feel is right. And I've developed a few philosophies over the years, but one thing that I've always stuck to is if you are a client of mine, you come in and tell me what you want. What do you expect your outcome for the massage to be? And tell me the main reason why you have decided to seek out massage. With those few things, I've been able to basically process of elimination. And I say, okay, so it sounds like you're looking for a little bit of treatment, but you don't really want to walk out in pain. Okay, so the different types of massages, I list off to them sometimes if they're curious. But the funny thing is, I'll tell you something, is being now trained between two provinces in Canada that are quite different for massage therapy, it was never a question in Ontario about what kind of massage to get. If I worked in a spa, which I did, people came in, people knew me right away as treatment oriented. So I would just kind of work what needed to be done. It was never a discussion of what kind. And then my wellness center, same thing, mobile, same type of deal. Here, working at a physiotherapy clinic, first off, people would come in and say, you know, I don't know, like, what do I need? Sports, therapeutic, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. So I actually had to do my own little bit of research when I first got here to figure out how is the massage therapy industry explaining this to the public about the differences of massage? Because truth be told, every massage therapy school across Canada is taught under what you call Swedish massage technique. So when somebody comes in and asks for a Swedish massage, oh, they relate it to relaxation. Well, funny enough, all modalities of massage are related to Swedish massage. So you've got therapeutic and sports massage and deep tissue. There are three separate categories that people know of here that to me essentially basically mean the same thing. So if you're looking for recovery, you're looking for, you know, I've got a really bad trigger point or not here, I'm getting tension headaches, I'm probably going to say to that person, okay, you're probably going to need a little bit of therapeutic. If you're good with deep tissue and you're good with pressure, I'll throw that in too. That's just an example. Other people, it's very individual based. So what I do is they come in looking to me for answers, and then I kind of put it back onto them and say, okay, tell me what you're feeling, and then I'll use my skills and expertise to put back on you, and then you choose.
Okay, so let's double down on that. When you put it back on them and ask them why they come in, what are some of the common answers you hear?
Most of the time they say, I just hurt and I want to feel better. I've had a really crappy week. This year has been terrible, blah, 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 blah. I just need to de-stress. So mental health is a huge, huge aspect with what I do. Other than that, I'd probably say most people look at me and say, look, you're the expert. This is my issue. Please choose. Just tell me what I have to do. So with that, I do, you know, approach it as a blank canvas type treatment. And I just have to think really fast within 5 seconds, and I'm saying, okay, here's our time allotment. I've never seen you before. This is what we're going to work on. This is what you expect outcome. So I don't get too caught up on the different categories as far as sports, therapeutic, and deep tissue.
Absolutely, and I assume that it's a fairly, unless the customer really knows what they want and why, I assume that the session could be very dynamic as well, right? So if you identify a certain issue, you may stay there for a little bit longer than you thought you would have at the beginning. Sight unseen.
100%.
So Aaron, then, being as you guys are more of a holistic service and you guys are cross-referencing clients, when in that journey, when through your customer's journey, your client's journey rather, do you typically refer them for massage? I mean, let's be honest, massage is not exactly cheap, right? Like, let's just call a spade a spade. It's not cheap, so you couldn't afford a session after every training session, right?
No.
So when do you refer them over, and why?
Well,
and why?
So, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, nowadays do have like wellness dollars or some sort of health spending account. So that's a big one. And they constantly ask, like, when they find out my wife's a massage therapist, it just becomes kind of an interest, like, oh, and then they start asking. Sometimes we've had people ask, like, more times than I can count, and then eventually, like, book a massage with Amanda. Um, in terms of price, I mean, we've never had that large of an issue. I always put the reference of a car where I mention, like, your check engine light is on. You've got to do something about it. For most people, I get asked, like, if they occur an injury, whether it be work-based or they're feeling beat up from whatever it may be, it's constantly like, what would you recommend? Well, and I always say I'm biased. I mean, I'm like, I believe in massage therapy, but I would never discount, athletic therapists, physiotherapists, but I always talk about the concept of proactive and reactive. And I say, like, how big of a problem do you want this to be before it needs, more than physio, more than athletic therapy? Are you willing to have surgery or X amount of whatever it may be? And that's obviously how I kind of looked at my approach as well too. I'm like, we should fix the problem long before it starts. I'm big on being proactive, and this is where I mentioned massage therapy. The joke is with her and I, like, not that I'm opposed to stretching, but I go, most people aren't going to static stretch post workout for the time that it should be. They're not just going to allot that. So I go, look at it. Are you going to go and get someone else to help you and have that recovery protocol in mind, or are you going to spend the next 2 hours stretching while you're watching Netflix at home?
Yeah.
So, I'm huge on that in the sense of, like, trying to not necessarily push, but when asked, I'm very quick to talk about that concept.
I can only smile when you talk about proactivity versus reactivity. That is a rabbit hole that we can go down for hours. I'm not going to go there today. I talk about that all the time. It's just we are reactive people, period, right?
Yeah.
We're not very
100%.
proactive.
Yeah.
But so Aaron, I think you used the perfect analogy there. You said check engine light. Let's dive into that a little bit. When it comes to the human body, what are those check engine lights?
Well, so
I know there's a lot of different answers here. So go ahead.
That's the easiest way I can use for my example is, like, just use myself for competing for a long time in different things. Like, I know, because I was guilty of it. Amanda, I know, was guilty of it without throwing her under the bus. Like, we would train with the concept of mind to, like, feel completely just dead when you walk out of there, sore for 3 days. So, and I always had this concept, of especially training at such a young age and working way up, is like, more is more, right? Like, pain is pain. Like, you're supposed to push through it. It's a thing. It makes you stronger, tests your willpower, so on and so forth. And I racked up a lot of injuries from this. So I say, let my pain be your experience. Like, let me teach you some small things about, because obviously I have done massage. I've done, chiro. I've done more physio that I can count, about just small things. And I say, like, more pain isn't necessarily a good indicator that you're doing something well or working to the right, percentile. Like, check engine light can be something small at times, like, hey, every time I wake up, I have this knot in my trap. And every time I go to the gym and I work on my presses, it just gets worse, or it alleviates. And then when I get home and I go about my daily routine, it becomes worse and worse and worse. I'm like, that's a small thing, but it can turn into a larger grand scheme of things. Like, it can change the way, the way you move, the way you operate. And then it all is just kind of that spiral effect.
We call them small signals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the body starts releasing little cues. Like, you go to do, say, a bicep curl, and the top shoulder, all of a sudden you feel a pinch or a zing because you pinched a nerve. Those are little signs that you probably shouldn't ignore. And I'd probably say that is the lights on your car.
Absolutely. And again, that's the perfect analogy, right? Because when it comes to your car, a lot of things might be wrong before that check engine light actually comes on.
Yeah.
Right? But once it goes off, once it sets off, there's, like, the recovery is much more difficult than if you were to get ahead of it. Right? Yep. So I'm going to take a little bit of a segue. When I think about training and I think about massage, the immediate parallel that I think about is posture. It just, whether or not you guys agree with that, I'm going to test you guys with that. Let's talk about posture. Especially today when we're all working from home, I'm sure you guys witness this as well. Your clients aren't moving as much outside of your exercise sessions or what have you. They're sitting all day. They're just not as motivated to get outside for walks. So we are sitting. And if we're not sitting, then our heads are, looking down at our phones. Posture is absurd nowadays. It's so bad. So from a training perspective, from a massage perspective, how do you guys approach posture? And what are the biggest deficiencies you see nowadays when it comes to posture?
I'd say postural is a huge thing that we talk about all the single time, and we're guilty. So in all fairness, we're guilty. Like, we're looking down on the screen right now. Like, before this, I was doing a bunch of typing, like programming, super guilty. As I said before, like, I'm big on corrective exercises. And one thing I get clients to do all the time, especially if they have, like, it's not something vigorous, but like I put the reference of like physio in mind. Like, corrective exercises don't have to be this all out effort. It can be 5 to 6 times a day. And the food I think works personally the best for myself and my clients that I recommend is setting a timer on your phone. Because let's be honest, you take your phone everywhere with you. And it's just like, some clients I know are fortunate enough to, at their desk, they have like a band or a small lacrosse ball or whatever, and they can carve out some time, whether it be 5 minutes, to do some of the corrective exercise that we have implemented either, during the session, or I've sent them personally. Posture is it's an ongoing battle. I'll just say that, because it never goes away.
Yeah, posture for me, in my experience, and especially this year, I would probably say it's like 90% of my clientele. No word of a lie. And athletes struggle with it. This guy over here, who's the boxer, the kickboxer, he's got crazy rounding in his upper T-spine, for example. But that's a different set of type of postural stuff. Our society is technologically driven. So we are designed to look down 90% of the time. And now, and I see this in kids too. I treat kids too. And unfortunately, I'm seeing it every year younger and younger. I'm seeing it as young as 10 years old, and I'm seeing that what we call hyperkyphosis posture. It's extra rounding in the T-spine, and then it gives you that forward head carry. So what you're doing is you're realigning your spine's natural curve, and unfortunately, our musculature is going to adapt to whatever that is. So posture related stuff is huge. This year especially, I want to say the difference between my other years of postural versus this one. Everybody's forced to work from home, 90% of people, which means their setup is not ergonomically set up. I've got people coming in saying, my setup is crap. Amanda, I am at my kitchen table on my little kitchen stool. My back hurts like an hour into my session. And so, unfortunately, this year has been a much more bigger struggle, I would probably say, for people. And I do the same thing. That's hilarious that Aaron just said that. I do the same thing with people. I tell them, can you set a timer on your phone for every 20 to 30 minutes? Get up, jump on the floor, and do like a rollout. It's not as embarrassing as when you're in the office and doing it in front of a bunch of people. Most people have their pajama bottoms on from the waist down anyways, so it works out nicely. But I just go over a lot of stuff that people can do throughout their day and then after they're done work, because the biggest struggle is the setup with people at home right now.
Right. Yeah, it's an uphill battle, because let's be honest, posture is not sexy. It's not something that people care to talk about, right? That's what it is. Yep. It's not six pack. It's not booty. It's not weight loss, but it's so important. Amanda, or I guess both of you, I want to get you guys to do the audience a favor, especially the ones who aren't as familiar with anatomy. So Aaron, I'm going to get you to look to your right, and Amanda, you were talking about excess curvature in the T-spine. Can you show them on Aaron where the T-spine is and what a rounded one looks like?
Yep. So can you actually turn a little bit towards that corner, pen? Okay. So I'll just aim this a little bit to Aaron's T-spine.
Perfect.
Okay. So basically, the T-spine is what you call your thoracic spine. So the spine is in 3 different sections. You've got your cervical, which is your neck. You've got your thoracic, which is your torso. And then you've got your lumbar, which is the very low back, which tends to be a hot spot on most people. So for Aaron, because of his boxing posture, just go into your boxing posture for a minute, huh? So what he does is he's got to tuck his chin. So that puts a lot of stress on your back extensor group. So the back muscles of your neck, which if you can think beyond the skin, what that he's doing is he's taking out your natural, nice little S curve or C curve there, and he's actually straightening it. Because he's straightening it, every section of the spine actually starts going into the next section. So the way that the T-spine has been affected is because it is the largest section of the back end spine. So for him, he likes to say, wherever the head goes, the body goes. He's been saying this for years. I 100% agree. He's got to tuck his chin. Most people tuck their chin down to look at their devices, their computers, which automatically puts extra stress and rounding on the T-spine. Once this is done excessively for a long period of time, and I'm talking months into years, so this doesn't happen overnight, the vertebrae, the little spinal processes in between that people feel actually start separating and creating space. Once that happens, it's very hard to get that back unless you actually start working on a musculature level.
No, I think that was a very, very important demonstration. I just wanted to highlight, of course, when we talk at a more technical level, not everybody can relate, or not everybody, I don't want to say understands, but they're just not familiar with the terminology, right? But seeing that, I'm sure the mass public will acknowledge that either A, they have that themselves, or B, they know a handful of people. And it's not just a handful, they know many people who walk around like that every single day. And I believe the number is 80% of the population, the world's population, will suffer or have suffered some level of back pain in their life to various degrees, but we suffer it, a lot of it because of posture and our habits, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for that demonstration. That was excellent. Okay, so I do want to take a turn off of your daily services and stuff like that, and let's talk about business in general. Of course, in the midst of the pandemic, and even outside of the pandemic, entrepreneurship, business ownership is difficult. Now you guys have doubled down on that, and you guys are both business owners, collectively owning the same business, but still, you guys are both entrepreneurs, both business owners. How has that been? Extra stress, or has it been okay?
I wouldn't say any extra stress from our business. I mean, when restrictions were lifted a bit, everything was fine. You know, the word got out, it started to spread. We were very happy with the way it got. We thought there'd be a bit of a slower start, but it came off, you know, right out of the gate, and it was perfect. And, you know, you get small things like people said, oh, I told you should have done this long before, or why didn't you do this? I'm like, well, thanks, coach. But like, you know, we truly love it. Of course, now for me, I'm a little bit more hindered now that certain restrictions have been laid. Like, I'm only doing personal training where I used to offer group training. Now I'm not currently offering group training just to kind of stay within the restrictions. And there's no, like, some clients that I have don't just strength train, they do pad hold it. Like, I pad hold for them, I coach certain athletes, whatever. I cannot do any pad holding currently. So if they do any martial arts, it's, you know, more drill and heavy bag emphasized. That has kind of hindered a little bit of the amount of sessions I have per week. Still very fortunate to be where I need to be. Yeah, once those restrictions left, I'm back to normal again. I was very happy the way it went when we first started. I mean, I didn't
sorry to cut you off. I think business-wise, truthfully, it wasn't too much of a leap to come together, to bring our services together, to be honest. Like I mentioned, I've been doing this for years. I have been doing, right now in Calgary, I work out of a physiotherapy clinic and I do mobile. My mobile has always been under my own name. So that's been my business. So for Aaron, I think that this was a bit more of a transition because he did a lot of personal training back in Ontario, but he's always worked out of a martial arts type gym. So when his gym actually closed down, he took the reins 100%. So he stopped doing classes. It was kind of forced, I guess, for you to pivot into personal training big time, but it was a natural transition. And then when we came together, it just became very natural to join our businesses together because we've been doing it. So challenge-wise, I don't think there's been too many challenges other than the COVID restrictions.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? You gotta be ready and on your toes at all times. Like, I mean, okay, nobody could have predicted this or the extent of this for this duration, right? But you need to be flexible. You need to be adaptable. I understand it's going to be easier for Aaron to host an online practice than it is for you, Amanda. There's no, as far as I know, there's no online massage therapy. I don't know how that would work. Would you coach somebody to massage somebody else? Yeah, I'm kidding. But, right. But that being said, you are mobile, and I'm sure you can deliver your service in a very safe manner within the regulations, within the restrictions, right? So being that, having that flexibility, that's amazing. I think that's great. So then, being as you guys are still pretty fresh in this this joining of your businesses, what is next for you guys, say in the next 6 months or so?
Okay, so we have been brainstorming. So funny enough, just to kind of jump back real fast to your last one, the challenges. One thing that came to mind as you were just speaking is we have to do a lot more marketing for Optimal Living, where individually we didn't really have to do that much marketing, which is kind of funny. So when we decided to do Optimal Living, it was all in, and that was what we decided to do. So we've met with marketing specialists and people who specialize in social media and all that kind of stuff, because Aaron and I have very limited experience in that regard. So I'd probably say challenge-wise too, that keeping up with the social media and the marketing for ourselves and not delegating that to anybody or having anybody to have our back on that has been actually probably one of the biggest challenges, because it takes a lot of time out of your day if you've never done it before. This isn't just regular posting. This is a strategic posting. We had to create a whole new social media outlet just for Optimal Living itself through Instagram, and Facebook's on its way. Now to your current question. 6 months planning. So Aaron and I, without revealing too much too soon, we want to take our services under one roof. So over the next 6 months, we're hoping to look around for a place to be able to do that. And then brainstorming more ideas on how to bring Optimal Living more out to the public eye and how to do that outside of social media. So we've been brainstorming a lot of ideas about that as well. My year end is crazy right now though, so unfortunately, Aaron has been taking on that full responsibility more so than myself right now. But 6 months wise, I'd probably say gaining more traction, gaining more clientele. And then also we have been discussing how to offer certain benefits of getting our services combined. So if somebody wants to do massage and personal training, to make it a little bit more affordable for them in the new year.
Great.
Yeah.
Did you miss anything, Aaron?
No, not really. I mean, the whole concept of finding one place, like right now, she's still mobile, and finding a place where we can put both of our abilities, both of what we offer under one roof is kind of the ideal. So she doesn't have to jet all over Calgary. And I'd say you pretty much hit it right on the head there.
I think that's great. And again, I think it's a great idea for you guys to combine your services. I do like the idea of having all the services under one roof. Maybe it's in the future to bring under maybe a nutritionist under your umbrella or something like that, right? Yeah. Very similar to what we do. We try to be as much as possible, anyways, to be a one-stop shop without overstepping your scope of practice. Very, very important, right? Very, very important. And I think you guys are well aware of that. I think you guys are doing a great thing. So if somebody is looking for your services, they're looking for training, they're looking for massage, where can they find you guys?
We have a website called optimallivingyyc.com. It is constantly being made over and added to and tweaked, but that is the gist of where you can contact us. Right now, we do have a social media as well. It is under Optimal Living, or is it Optimal Living YYC on Instagram?
Optimal Living YYC.
Sorry. Oh my
That's
gosh.
Okay.
You can tell he's been heading most of the Instagram stuff. And so either way, whatever is easier for people, whether they visit our website, optimallivingyyc.com, or they visit our Instagram handle, which is Optimal Living YYC. They can reach us both individually, message, or email is usually the fastest, because like most of society, we are glued to our laptops and phones.
We certainly are. We most certainly are. Okay, so if somebody is living an evolved life, what does that mean? And Aaron, I'll start with you.
An evolved life.
Yeah, that's correct.
Interesting concept there. In terms of, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is the next step of evolution. That's what I'm thinking? An evolved life.
It can mean anything. Like if they are living their best life, their evolved life, what does that look like? It could be financially, physically, I don't care. Like, how do you define it?
A definition. I have a mindset of what I think an evolved life would be, but
sure.
I mean, perfect. That's a tricky one. I just say like how you use your time is everything, but it's, you know, for me, I talk about fulfillment. So an evolved life would be something that you're filled. Well, you know, some people it's financial, it's physical, it's spiritual, whatever it may be, but it's living with fulfillment in all aspects. That's what I would refer to as an evolved life.
Good answer. Amanda?
I would probably say pretty similar. I like to think of life in buckets personally. So this is a little, I guess, tidbit about myself. So I always look at your relationships, both family, romantic, friends, workers, and then you look at what you're doing for a living. How are you making money? And are you where you want to be financially? What are your future goals? If you're on the path where those buckets are being continuously filled, and one big one that often most of us forget is the self bucket. If your buckets are staying pretty full most of the time, I'd probably say that's a well-rounded individual. You know, you're healthy, you seek out individuals of expertise when needed. Mental health is huge. Like I had mentioned previous, that's a self bucket, that's a self-check bucket. So yeah, I think a well-rounded individual would have all their buckets full.
I think that's amazing. And that's why you guys make the perfect team. Collectively, that was an awesome answer. Individually as well, but collectively, doing things that fulfill you, having meaningful relationships, including one with yourself, that is evolved to me. So great answers, guys. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you, Vu. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of My Evolved Life. If you found any value at all, and I know you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button below so you're always notified of new episodes. We'll be releasing a new episode every single week. So until next week, live an evolved life.